Welcome to Mornings with Patricia. Happy Friday. Friday. Isn't it interesting how we name things and then have experiences around them, right? So, if you're working, Monday is the start of your week and Friday is the end of your week. And typically, well, I don't know how typically, but typically people, celebrate Fridays and groan about Mondays. But it's just a day, right? We've sectioned these times off, and it's just a day. It's the set of experiences that we have decided to make around those. So you work 5 days a week. What do you do the other 2 days, right? Do you do things around the house? Would that be considered work? Those are the things that just so amaze me and continue to amaze me in my spiritual journey, because this insistent need to name things so that we have particular experiences around them. Yeah. So, we name our experiences. I'm sad, I'm happy, and then when we notice that, we have these sets of experiences, and then we notice when they change. So words can both be helpful, and oftentimes the naming of things is very limited. Now, I've talked about this before at Sacred Space in some of my classes, but once you name something a tree, it can never be anything else but a tree, right? You have a set of understandings around trees and treeness. And what that is. As little children, before we begin to name things, a tree is just this magical place you go to put your back against, to hug, to feel the roughness of this, whatever this thing is. As adults, we know as bark. And the leaves talk to us. I remember, I wasn't young. I was 12, and my dad was a gold miner, and so we lived on a claim and didn't have electricity or running water. And but this claim was amazing because it was part of the old stagecoach road. And so a good portion of that was there, and then there were boulders in the middle of it. But along part of the road that was where we lived, it was a private area because it was part of the claim, there were these amazing trees. And the wind would come up when I talked to the trees, always. And because we didn't have TV or electricity or things like that, a lot of my life in the early years, I had a different interaction with my environment. I would interact with the trees. What is interesting, I really didn't talk about this with my friends, because I thought people just did that. I thought people talked to the trees, and then the trees talked back. I didn't understand that people thought of a tree as a sort of object that couldn't communicate. The same thing with everything around. So when we name things and need it to be definite like that, we limit our environment. And so why is that important? Why is that really important? Well, I think it's important because it determines our experience. It determines, what we experience during any given day. It really limits us. And it defines us. And I was just having that memory of talking to the trees. I was just having that memory just now. And they still talk to me, and I talk to them. Oh, well, I talk to everything. And everything talks back. But, everything has a consciousness. It just changes form. Like a wooden table was once a tree, right? But just because it's become a wooden table and changed form doesn't mean that it doesn't have a consciousness. So we have these ideas of animate and inanimate objects, and then somehow we order our day around that, and that's so crazy, that we've bought into a belief system. The indigenous cultures know that's not true, and they have a very different experience than we do in the West, or as westernized culture. We're very far removed from the feeling of our environment. And because we're so far removed from a feeling of our environment, we get stuck in this thing called our thoughts or our head. And then we believe that's true. So let me ask you this. How believable are you? How believable are your thoughts? Right? What do you know to be true? Well, I'm thinking that I'm sitting on this chair. And that's an experience I'm having, at least in the physical form. So I could believe that thought. But a thought like, I'm beautiful or I'm ugly, I was talking with on a level with the class tonight, the magical class. When we have a thought like that, it's by comparison. But comparison doesn't hold up because you have to have an agreement around what you're comparing. So you would have to have an agreement around beauty, an agreement around ugliness, an agreement around thinness, an agreement around fatness. You see what I'm saying? So, if you don't, you have to have an agreement on those sorts of things, even to have comparison. So that's very interesting when you think about it, because how believable are our thoughts, right? How do we know that what we're thinking is true? So oftentimes, like in some of the studies, what they say is it's about, the feeling within yourself. So if a feeling causes pain to you or causes painful emotion, it's not a very believable thought. It's not a thought worth merit. It's a thought that's out of alignment with your true nature. And so if you have a thought like that about someone else, it's also out of alignment with your true nature. You understand what I'm saying? Your true nature is love. And there's no comparison with love. You see that? There's no comparison with love. Love just simply is. It is, and it's all that is. Right? Anything else is unbelievable. Now, that's not to say that it can't be experienced, but it's unbelievable. The fact, that we have ever been born or we ever die. So we're so attached to this, thing called the body or the physicality. But like I talked about the tree, right? The tree is cut down and is turned into a table. Okay, it changes form. Our bodies come into being, our bodies pass away, but it just changes form. The thing about consciousness is that it doesn't need to reside anywhere. In fact, true consciousness is. It doesn't reside anywhere. So understanding the difference between your true consciousness and thoughts. You can think anything, right? So I can think that my face is blue. And is that a believable thought? Well, if I am raised in a family that told me from, when I was little that we have blue faces, then I would think all faces are blue, right? I might run into some interesting things when I get assimilated into mainstream culture and they say the sky is blue, and I might notice a difference, right, between the two. There's an old thing that says, how can you know if a rose is red and two people are looking at a rose? How can you know that my red is the same as your red? You can't, really. You know, there's no way to, you could take a picture, we can't capture it that way. I could draw it and paint it, they can't capture it that way. There's no way to know that my redness is your redness. There's absolutely no way. We can have some agreement upon what red might look like, but my shade may be very different than your shade, or my understanding of red may be very different than your understanding of red. So the same thing holds true when you consider this for the patterns in our thoughts. Most of the time, we think through comparison. When we are thinking things that cause us discomfort or cause us dis-ease, we're thinking by comparison. We're looking outward and we're saying, this is such and such, and that's not what I'm experiencing, or that's not who I perceive myself to be, or that's not the experience that I'm having, right? And we do that by comparison. And comparison, any thoughts that come from comparison, is not a believable thought. That's really interesting, right? So here's the thing. If I say, I am happy, I am happy, I say I'm happy, I'm in this place of peace or bliss, but I'm not comparing it to anything. And that's the difference in I think the spiritual journey is that, you know, you say, I am that. I am that. But I am that in its wholeness, not over and against something else. You know, I'm at peace, but that's not to say I'm at peace because this looks unpeaceful. You know, I'm peaceful. And that's what I was trying to say last night. You know, is that, you know, peace is not negating conflict. It's not needing conflict to not exist. It's the fact that, you know, it accepts that there is conflict, but it has nothing to do with being peaceful. Because you're not trying to change anything. You're not trying to compare your experience or your nature to anything else. You are just where you're at. And if you can make that a place of just noticing and observing, then Fridays can just be whatever, right? It's another day you get up and you do whatever. You know, you may have a set experience of what you do on Fridays. That's fine. But you don't need to have a big old thing that you think about, right? If you celebrate Fridays, why not celebrate Mondays or Tuesdays or Wednesdays or Thursdays, Saturdays, Sundays? Why not celebrate every day? What stops you from doing that? The thing that stops you from doing that is a thought. A thought that somehow Mondays, you know, are the beginning of the week, if you're working, and Fridays, well, you're off. That's a thought. Right? It's about being present and being joyful with whatever you're doing, and you become joyful by being present, by staying right in the now. So after all these minutes with me, my message for today is, I hope you get to stay in the now. Somewhere there's no Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Right? In some cultures, maybe, if you were in a culture that wasn't exposed to the outside world and calendars and all of that, you wouldn't worry about what day of the week it is. Isn't that amazing? Which means that you don't have to be worried now. You can just be present. So I wish for you a very present day filled with thoughts of no comparison and appreciating all that you are. So 1, 2, 3. Oh my God, I love myself. And I love you. Have a beautiful Friday, a beautiful weekend, and I will see you Monday. Thank you, my friends.